come across as a Japanese? Any kind of cultural shock? If you did, how did you handle it?
Well, actually, you asked me if I have ever had the cultural shocks being stationed in various cultures and the world. And the answer is never. So many memories, attached to the each post in various countries. For instance, in the Middle East, in Egypt, when I was there, I think it was still under the administration of President Mubarak.
Yeah.
But first of all, I was very, very fascinated by the ancient culture, ancient histories. And I've probably been to the places like Giza or the Luxor, and you would completely fascinated by this.
Yeah.
You could feel that the Egypt was actually the origin of civilizations, and the way they construct the monument and so forth has been transferred to European civilizations. If you look at the buildings, you can see that. And actually, when you visit the Tutankhamen tomb, you'd be surprised to know how vivid the colors are. And these things have been really fascinating. Also, Egypt was the crossroads, being Arabs, at the same time Africans, and surprisingly, to Japanese and Mediterraneans. So they are the mixture of the cultures. My tenure in India is actually, if I may say so, awakening to me. During the 40 years of service in foreign ministry, I've never dealt with India. But before I was asked to go to India as an ambassador, I had certain image, perceptions towards India, which I should say were broadly shared by the Japanese at that time. A kind of image, India as a very big country, but very much poor. India is very difficult to do business and something like that. But it didn't take long before I realized that this kind of image would serve very little service when we try to expand our relationships with that country. And sometimes the preoccupation hinders us from looking at the reality or grasping the opportunity they offer. And I think it is true that India is still lots of people are living very poor, but at the same time you would come across lots of rich people. I think these rich people are trading with globally, and their views are very, very global. I was very surprised to know that, and at the same time, India very the illiterate children, so many, but at the same time the brilliant brains graduating from the higher education system like IIT, IIM, and they are really looking at the world. So mixture, but at the same time you'd be surprised to know that if the country like India is going to grow at that pace, how fast the things are changing. The faces of the land is changing, one day and after. And I still remember that I think it was the year 2009 or 10 when China overtook Japan in terms of GDP. And it was news, but today I think the Chinese GDP is as big as 2.5 times bigger than Japanese. In less than 7 years. This is how the things are working. So that my experience staying in India convinced me that India will become a very big country in a very short time. And so this is going to change, and not only India but some other developing countries. I believe is going to grow in the same way.
Yeah.
So that was the lesson I learned, during my stay in India. So that's why I
Yeah.
call, that stay a most
But let's
awakening.
build a bridge. When you finished your diplomatic career, you went over to JICA.
Yeah.
See, from diplomacy, you were taking, sort of working for development cooperation, promoting the interests of Japan, at the same time taking into consideration the interests of the countries with which JICA has something to do.
Yeah.
So how far was this diplomacy helpful for you to promote as senior vice president of JICA?
Yeah,
the
that's an
interests of
interesting
Japan?
question because there are lots of synergies and similarities between the foreign ministry and the JICA. Actually, JICA is one of the arm of the government to promote the official development assistance to the developing countries under the guidance of the government, including the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So naturally there are similarities and synergies. But the people working there, I think, are the staff, and also beside the staff, we have lots of consultants, working for the developing countries, and their mentality, is the more, I think, attached to the, I think, the things like poverty alleviation, and I think we also have a lot of volunteers. So JICA is now, since it merged with the another organization, the banking sector, we call it JBIC. We merged in 2008. Now the JICA is one of the biggest bank in these regions. I think as big as ADB or something like that.
Okay.
And now we have another competitor coming from China, AIIB.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think to answer your questions, I think we have similarities, but I think JICA has lots of I think people in a different thought, but they some of these people are really devoted to the work. For instance, some of them are to promote the infrastructure building, and some of them are helping a little girl or boy in the villages of Africa, as volunteers. So wide ranging.
Yeah, it was a pleasure talking to you, Mr. Domichi.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.